Good afternoon. And the warmest of congratulations to each and every one of you. We're so glad to be able to celebrate your special anniversary this year. And I am so happy that we can gather in some way, shape, or form to be able to do this. It's still June, isn't it? I was talking on the way up here to a priest on the phone. We were dealing with a particular situation, and I forget what I said just as I was pulling in, and something that I had intended that didn't work out, and I said, I'm not sure what went wrong, and he said, Bishop, it's 2020. That's the answer to everything. And a warm welcome to and congratulations to all of your families who are watching by way of live stream, and to all of the couples who are watching by way of live stream. I know that, and I'm saddened by the fact that the situation is such, circumstances are such that it's not necessarily healthy for everyone to be able to gather. And so I'm glad we can be connected. And I want to say a word right from the start to Father Wilson and to the whole parish here at St. Paul for welcoming us so warmly and making this so festive. And at the end, I'll have another chance to say thank you, but I'll say now thanks to Stephanie and to Catherine, to the whole Office of Marriage and Family Life for all the work that went into preparing for today. In the gospel, what a fitting gospel. We just found a Sunday afternoon that worked. And yet what a fitting gospel we have to celebrate your marriage. In the end, what matters after all is said and done, right? Jesus is asked, which is the greatest of all the commandments? Which is the greatest of all the commandments? And instead of going through the litany of the 10 commandments, and instead of trying to, pick top commandment, he fused together two pieces of the law, and fused them together in such a way that they become one and the same thing. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. He brings these two together. That first commandment, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. It actually comes from the book of Deuteronomy. Actually, they both do, but in different places. And when Moses gives that law to the people of God, he reminds them, he says, take this law and inscribe it, write it on everything you have. And so you see some of the Jewish customs, the wearing of the pendant with this law written on it. I remember when my parents moved into our house in 1968. The people who had the house before us were Jewish, and they had left, I'm terrible at pronunciation, the mezuzah, the little reminder, a pendant on the door that as you came in and out every day, you kind of hit your finger against it, where this law was written on the doorpost so that you would see it and feel it every single day. What a powerful lesson. And so Jesus is asking us to imprint that into our hearts, to make it part of who we are. Now, at an occasion like this, I have to confess, my family becomes the material. I just had the privilege of celebrating my nephew's wedding down in Arlington, Virginia. And you want to talk about 2020, oh my, their plans changed so many times, right up until the day before the wedding. It was a little bit heartbreaking, but it was a little inspiring to see how this young couple, in the end, all they wanted was to be married and to begin their life together. But I used the occasion to give my brother and sister-in-law a hard time remembering their wedding over 30 years ago. My youngest brother, because this was the first wedding in the family, my youngest brother referred to it as the royal couple, because everything centered around that first wedding. And I knew that when my brother started dating my sister-in-law, she was also a Brennan, I knew this was going somewhere because I saw a side of my brother that I hadn't seen before. He wasn't the Luddite anymore. He was really head over heels in love. He was a romantic. I never knew he had it in him. He would plan all these romantic dates and all these adventures, right? Well, after the wedding, and when they started to settle into married life, and especially once the children started coming, a romantic date for my brother and sister-in-law usually involved a visit to Home Depot or to Costco. You know the feeling, right? That was their time alone, and it was also very practical. But they relished it. They relished even those things. They relished it. Their time together and their building up of their household, their home. In fact, they're in their house now, some 30 years. My parents are in their house somewhat. Now, it'll be 52 years in December. And in both cases, someday the house will be done. Right? But isn't that the truth of family life? We're always in the process of being formed and being shaped. We're always in the process of growing and growing deeper in love. We're always in the process of trying to live out this greatest commandment, to love God more deeply, to love our neighbor more deeply. And today, as we celebrate the anniversaries of your marriage, we celebrate the ways that you have been and continue to work at this great commandment and how you live it and show it for all of us. You know, that we're starting to read now from St. Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, the first letter to the Thessalonians. This is probably the first piece of the New Testament, the earliest thing written. It's a letter written by Paul not very long after the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, even before any of the Gospels. And St. Paul is writing to the people of Thessalonica and talking about their acceptance of the faith. And in these opening lines, he has some powerful witness statements that I think apply very well here today. He talks about how they received the word of God and how it brought them such joy and how they lived it so authentically that it began to rub off on others. For from you, the word of the Lord has sounded forth, not only in Macedonia and Achaia, but in every place. Your faith has gone forth so that we have no need to say anything. Imagine that. Paul's going into all these different cities, and he says, I can't even open my mouth to preach the gospel because everybody knows everything because they know about you. They've seen your goodness. They've seen your joy. They see how you're living out the gospel. And so before I even open my mouth, they're ready. They're ready. They've encountered Jesus Christ. That's what St. Paul is saying. He's saying, I'd like to think that I'm bringing them the gospel, but you did it. And you did it not by sailing off from city to city. You did it by authentically living out the gospel. You who are here today at St. Paul, you are the most eloquent preachers of the gospel because you live the gospel in daily ways, but you also live the marriage vows that you took some 25, 35, 40, 50, 60, and keep going, right? Years ago. We have a whole collection here. It's a beautiful gift, beautiful, beautiful witness. But you see, as much as you living your marriage vows out for each other, that's great. But I got to tell you, you're living them out and inspiring all the rest of us. You are teaching us in the most eloquent and the most practical of ways the meaning of the gospel just proclaimed today. By your daily sacrifices, by your daily work, by your rolling with the punches as life goes by your working things out, by your showing of mercy, by your love for each other and your love for your family. All of these things, I could just go down the list of everything you do that may not seem like a big deal to you, but it's the everyday living. Those everyday things, they just announce more eloquently than any priest could from the pulpit. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for being that witness. Thank you for being that witness for one another and for your families. Congratulations to you. But thank you for being that witness to all, the church, to me, and to all of us. Today, we celebrate your marriage and your family life in the context of the Eucharist, God's gift of his own life for us. We celebrate your gift of your lives for each other and for God so many years ago. And like your homes, it's not quite done. You're still renewing it every single day.